Welcome to this training video. My name is Carol Irwin and I'm the Principal Investigator for Factors Impacting Swimming Participation and Competence, the research study of which you will be a vital part. I hope you have downloaded the training documents that I've provided. Hopefully you were sent these along with this URL address. I'll be referring to these documents throughout the video, so if you don't have these at this point in time, if you haven't downloaded them, stop the video right now and please download them because they're going to be important. If you already have the documents, then make sure there are both versions of the survey, both the adolescent and parent caregiver, both versions of the consent statements, adolescent and parent caregiver, as well as the training video brief description document. I will be referring to that an awful lot. I think I included the script for this video as well as the PowerPoint. If you have those down, that's great too, but we're going to be following along the PowerPoint and you're going to be listening to me, so you may not need those. But definitely the first three items, the surveys, the consent statements, and the brief description. Okay. So again, there's my contact information, and you can go back to this at the beginning to check to find my email address as well as my phone number. Okay, YMCA and the USA Swimming. You know, why are they part of this project? Well, YMCA and the USA Swimming governing body has also been a part of two other similar studies in 2008 and 2010, of which the University of Memphis and myself were involved as well. Again, they're all organizations that have common, similar goals, and that is to try to get more swimming and to try to help facilitate less drowning. Three major goals for this study are to measure youth swimming ability and then also look to see if there's a potential link between a child's swimming ability and the parents. Also studying the likelihood that a child will learn how to swim based on the parents' knowledge of swimming. And then also uncover motivating factors and barriers to learning how to swim. Possible contributions for this study is to decrease, possibly eliminate drowning, very important, increase the number of children and adults who need to learn how to swim, a deeper understanding of strategies to encourage more participation with just not only learning how to swim, but maybe even competitive swimming, and then especially with high impact groups. And future YMCA programming may be based on some of these data too. So it's really important research for you individually. First of all, I want to just kind of go over with survey administration. Number one thing to remember is it's kind of hard to sell a survey because no one wants to fill out a survey. And one of the worst things you can say is, hey, do you want to do a survey for me? Because no one wants to do a survey. So instead, you should say, would you like to help the YMCA and USA Swimming get kids into the pool learning how to swim and not drowning as much? You need to kind of use that as your tactic to get people to complete surveys, because who can turn that down? So in order to help gain more student or survey numbers, then if you do have that kind of attitude, that kind of approach, that's going to help you a lot more than just saying, hey, you want to fill out a survey. Okay, survey procedures. Training video must be viewed. Obviously, that's what you're doing right now. Hopefully, your whole association, not just your branch, but your whole association will be garnering 500 surveys, approximately 250 adolescent and 250 parent caregiver. You should have copies of both the surveys and the consent statements with you right now. Do not use swimming programming if you can, because we already know that these children and these parents are involved in swimming and they have very positive attitudes around swimming. So what we want to do is find out why kids who aren't swimming, the reasons why they aren't swimming. So try to target large classes, non-swimming programming, groups to recruit potential survey participants, such as like if you have a big weekend program or, you know, fair of some sort, educational fair, or other kind of large group type situations. Daycare programming, that's really good to get parents involved. Basketball leagues and classes, obviously large groups. After school care programming, martial arts classes or other kinds of classes that you might be holding at your particular branch. And then if you have a Y Achievers or YCAP programming, that also helps quite a bit. All right, let's talk about the surveys. First of all, there's two different types of surveys. There are the adolescent survey as well as the parent caregiver survey. So there's two types of surveys. They're both front and back. They look a little overwhelming, but really they only take about 5 or 10 minutes to complete for the most part. And you need to also preface that when you ask them about helping the YMCA to get kids to learn how to swim more. You need to just say it'll only take 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, so have both of those ready. Adolescent version should be ages 12 to 18 years of age. And then parent caregiver, they need to answer in the place of their oldest child within the range of 4 to 11 years. First thing that you need to worry about in regards to important administration of the survey, and that is consent. So getting consent or permission is one of those big things that the University of Memphis wants us to do. It's part of the IRB approval process, and University of Memphis protects human subjects that are in research projects, and this is a very important part, is gaining their consent or their permission. We are using passive consent. It's verbal only. It's basically yes or no. And after you get parent permission, it's just, can you read this consent statement and still fill out the survey? And if they say yes, you've got passive consent. So it's typically just verbal. There's no returned paperwork, no signatures needed. And the parent caregiver consent is incredibly easy. Adolescent consent is a little bit trickier, and we're going to get into that. Okay, this slide looks kind of crazy, but you can, if you follow along in your brief description, we can kind of go over that and make sure that you get each one of these points because they're very important. Okay, first of all, let the adolescents and their parent caregivers know you will be administering the survey during a future class or group time, and please include the exact date. Do this at least a few days prior to when you plan to administer the survey. You can send a note home or verbally. If you have a parent meeting, you can tell them about this, or individually. You can also have a hard copy of that particular consent statement in a link, like on a Google page, or you can email it home. You can also post the consent statement on the wall and refer the parent to that consent statement so that they can read it and say, yeah, they can fill out the survey the next time or you come, or when you plan to do the survey. And then also you can post the actual survey up on the wall next to the consent statement too. That would be very helpful so they can see the actual survey. Since this is passive consent, again, the parent just needs to say, yeah, it's okay for my adolescent, and they can also tell the adolescent it's okay for you to take the survey. But if the parent says no, you're not to take that survey, then that adolescent cannot take that survey. Also, if the adolescent comes and says, no, I don't want to take that survey, you have to let them not take the survey. So all consented adolescents must, once the actual date comes for the survey administration, adolescents must take the survey in the presence of a trained YMCA staff member, which is, you'll be trained after this video, and make sure you read the consent statement out loud before they take the surveys. Emphasize their survey responses will be kept completely anonymous, and let the adolescents know they can stop whenever they want to if they feel like they want to. But try to encourage them to complete the whole survey because this information will be incredibly life-saving. Okay, once you're ready to have people collect or do the surveys, there are some specific directions that you need to kind of follow along. So again, make sure that you have your surveys ready so that you can kind of look at them as we're talking about them. And I'm going to go through these very, very quickly. Okay, and these are directions that you can just say completely out loud, verbatim. This is a survey that will help USA Swimming and YMCA to better understand why many children do not swim and why they drown at such high rates. Do not put your name on the survey. Your responses will be completely anonymous. Please be honest with all your answers and mark your answers clearly. Circle or mark them clearly. If you feel uncomfortable answering a question, feel free to skip it. If you're unsure of a word or what a sentence means, please ask the person administering the survey to help you. The agree, disagree statements, which are these, blocked out kind of questions. What you're going to have to do is read them as, do you agree or disagree with that particular statement? And sometimes it's hard to zero in on specifically how you might feel about that. And, what you have to do is think, okay, how did I feel right after I answered that? Zero in on that feeling and answer accordingly. Pay close attention to the swim ability questions, which are the scale questions at the bottom of the adolescent. And then for the parent caregiver, they're on the back side at the top. Those are scale type questions that kind of gives you an indication of where they are in swimming ability. That's a really important question to answer. Tell them to take their time with it. Also specifically with adolescents, all adolescents think they know how to swim. So try to have them focus in on that question. That's a very important one. Okay, the demographic questions that are on both surveys. There's a free and reduced lunch question. Some school districts no longer require free or reduced lunch, like Memphis in particular has no free or reduced lunch. They give free lunch to everybody. But I know some school districts still have that. Please have them try to answer that as correctly as possible. If they don't know, just tell them to circle D. I don't know my lunch status, as well as on the parent, it's I don't know my child's lunch status, which is perfectly fine. To go along, this is an income. The free lunch question is a income question to kind of zero in on that particular survey participant's income. The zip code is also an income estimator. A lot of times individuals who are taking surveys think that we can find them somehow if they put their zip code down. Please tell them there's no way we can find them. It'll still be completely anonymous even with their zip code. And the last one that I want to talk about is the racial identity question. Please tell the participants to zero in on what they think their identity is, their racial ethnicity identity is. If they're biracial or multiracial, have them circle as many as they feel comfortable with. And again, this is a sensitive item, but the information is kind of important. Try to encourage them to complete it, but if they feel uncomfortable, they can skip it. Okay, and then for parents only, again, tell the parents that they are to answer in lieu of the oldest child they have within that age range of 4 to 11 years. Okay, done. If there's no questions, then just notify your supervisor that you watched this video and do not have any questions. If you do have questions, please ask your supervisor these questions, or you can always send me, Carol Irwin, your questions, and I will try to answer those as quickly as I can. There's my email address, and there's my phone number if you would like to contact me via phone, 901-678-5437. And I just want to thank you in advance for everything you're going to do for this research study. We depend on some really, really good data from these surveys, and we know you'll do a great job. Thanks.